let's
Go
yeah.
All right.
I can bring the bike.
I gotta bring the bike.
Bring the bike just because we're thinking that.
I actually.
there's a
You
bike
biked
coming.
over here.
I biked over here.
I think this goes
The sun came out. Here. Where should we put
here.
it?
Let's
Just
put it
right here. Just no tire grease on the $4,000 couch.
Okay.
Is that good? Oh
I think
yeah.
that's perfect.
Look at that.
That's
Watch.
You're-
It's gonna fall over. Partway through.
Sponsored by Norco.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah. Norco, Patagonia, Starbucks, Doer. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you can see these pants. It's gonna sound a little bit weird, but this is a local company called Doer. I don't know if you know these guys.
No.
But they make very cool pants, but they're made for cycling. And I finally used them for their purpose. So they've got this gusset on the inside.
Yeah.
Anyway, see.
That's actually
what is a gusset?
A gusset?
Yeah.
I don't,
That's
I
a
don't know
serious-
the technical term, but it's like more fabric so that you won't rip your pants.
Oh, it's actually stretches.
Yeah. You know what though? That would be good because I always have a tough time with the thighs on the skinny
fat.
jeans. My fat thighs. Yeah. My thunder thighs. Mind the Gap secret. So we should say, Todd, we met you. So I went into a hairdresser a long time ago, and I said,
It shows.
"Give me the Todd Talbot." And she was like, "Funny you should ask. I know Todd Talbot."
Who was
I
it?
asked for the Todd Talbot
Oh, was
by
this
name.
Lisa?
No, I'm just kidding. But
Oh.
it
was Lisa. It
she
was
made the
Lisa.
connection.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Amazing.
Three
Yeah.
years ago now, probably. I would say
It
2
was.
or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Feel like I've known you all my life.
it's great. I always have fun coming here. I don't know if anyone actually enjoys
else
listening to anyone else does, or anyone enjoys listening. But I enjoy coming here and chatting with you guys.
Yeah, well, we enjoy having you.
Yeah. If only for our own. We're the only two that listen to the show.
Yeah.
That's why we wear these, so we can just hear ourselves talk.
Yeah.
So great. Do you mind that I brought a snack this morning?
No.
Have at it. Have at it.
We'll wait for the camera. Oh, the camera's on you. Feel free to smash that into your face.
The Thai tuna wrap. By the way, I got a bone to pick with Starbucks because they changed the wrapping of the Thai tuna wrap.
Oh, yeah?
So now there's more bread on it. It's horrible.
Really?
Yeah.
They change a lot of things. I had the protein box today. Now it's like 2 eggs. They took some stuff out.
This is like.
I'm furious. But Chris, get a close up on Todd. We're gonna need more TT with a mouthful of food here.
Because there's nothing better than listening to someone chew.
Oh, this is gold. Are we recording this?
My goodness.
Well, we should.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, it is good to have you back, and we should say, like, I mean, you're a fan favorite. You've had a show for many. How long have you been on TV?
Since you were 14, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I mean, I started young. I started when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Not the current show.
Yeah.
Although it does feel like it.
That would actually be a good show. Is like the Doogie Howser of home sales. He's 13 and he's a realtor.
He's doing renovations, but he can't lift the hammer. Yeah. Speaking of Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris. I mean, that guy.
yeah.
That guy has the ultimate career.
You know what's crazy is you've got a bit of a Neil, not so much on your show, but like you're a performer. You can sing, you can dance. I've seen it. I saw some karaoke.
You know what? Well, hold on.
And it was pretty good.
The
And
Covenant
it was,
House thing last year, wasn't that when
yeah,
you
like-
and your
Oh,
wife?
Yeah. That's right.
You could do show tunes though if you wanted to. I mean,
I could do show tunes. In fact, it looks like there may be a show in the future coming up in the spring.
wow.
Go back on stage.
Really?
Yeah.
In Vancouver?
Yeah, in Vancouver.
Oh, I want to see that.
I think I've got anxiety already. Like, it's been a while, and it's like being an athlete. You know, stepping back on the ice, you're scared and you're out of shape. So
Yeah.
it's going to take something to do it. But
You did a lot of that though. Like there was a Christmas. I remember the last Christmas you did some.
No,
Almost,
well, your wife did for sure. I saw her
but
in a
the-
performance.
There was like a Bublé-esque.
at Granville Island, I think.
we're just gonna,
White Christmas?
yeah.
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 Oh, I
That
didn't
was-
know.
That was great.
I don't think I saw that.
Well, I didn't do it last Christmas, but I have done almost every Christmas production known to man.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you even Instagram, bro?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Todd.
Well, Todd,
That leads us to our first question, Todd. Can you tell us a little bit
spell
about
your
yourself?
With 2 D's.
Can you honestly though? Most of our listeners are very familiar with you and your work, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I like long walks. Well, I'm an actor by trade. That is kind of the journey that I went on, and the whole real estate thing kind of came as a function of me. Well, actually, my parents charging me rent at home when I moved back and I started working. So I bought my first place in Kitsilano, and actually a book that my brother gave me about refinancing. It sounds like the world. He's an accountant. He's a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So, he thinks that way. And we always kind of talked about real estate. And he gave me this book, and I read it, and the whole world of refinancing seemed to make sense to me. So I started investing in real estate and just got like super into it. It became a hobby to start with, and then a passion, and one thing led to another. And next thing I knew, I found myself on a television show on HGTV. And but there's the off-camera side of things, which I'm still very hands-on in my own portfolio, and that's what I love to do. I mean, at the moment that I'm not doing something, in front of a camera or something like that, I have a tool belt on and working.
And you're licensed. You're a licensed realtor,
Yep.
and you're out doing your own investments, your own renos. So it's all happening off air as well.
Yeah, it happens in both
You don't just
realms.
play a realtor on TV.
Well, no.
Or kind of, actually.
Yeah,
I guess.
I do play a realtor on TV. Yeah, I mean, the reality is that what happens in real life is just a whole lot less sexy than how you package it for television.
Right.
And it's not to say that it's not fun to watch those types of shows, and they give you a little glimpse into the process. It's kind of like an appetizer or an overview of things, and people get ideas and inspiration and all that, which is fantastic. But it's not the real thing. And I think, the people who are in the trenches doing it, investing in real estate, buying, selling, all of those types of things, it's a very different process.
So
It takes forever.
Yeah. You don't wrap everything up in 22 minutes.
Crunch it into a 42-minute, 1 hour segment.
Right. So last time we had you on, Todd, my recollection is you just moved back to East Van from Lions Bay.
Yep.
You just renoed a small house right near mine in Grandview.
Yep.
But we were talking to you not long ago, and it sounds like since you've acquired another investment property in Vancouver. Is that right? You're kind of in the midst of it right now?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that property?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, people always, I want to find a good deal. And in my experience, you can have your feelers out there and you can be on auto notifications for different things that come onto the market. But in my experience, properties that, there's a bug on your desk. It's going for my sandwich. The greatest opportunities.
We'll have to cut to commercial so you can finish that.
We need a close-up on the bug. The greatest opportunities that present themselves are the ones that, kind of land out of nowhere, out of a conversation. And my wife, we actually partnered with another couple who, ironically enough, were aired as episode 1 on Love It or List It Vancouver.
Wow.
Close to 7 years ago. So that was.
So you're still friends with, are you just friends with those people through the show, or?
Some of them I stay connected to. Most of them I don't.
Yeah.
But our kids happen to go to school together. So we were reconnected through our kids in school. And anyway, so Rebecca, my wife, and Michelle were sitting down, and Michelle got an email about a house that was coming on the market. And she kind of, said to Rebecca, we should buy this. And Rebecca was like, yeah, let's buy this. And so we did. And it turned out it was great. I mean, it's those kinds of things. Obviously, there's a few months of due diligence and lots of negotiations, and then, a big time period before we actually got possession. And then, the renovation happened and we cleaned up the whole place, and it's now rented out. Actually, a few days ago, the second suite was rented out. So,
and it cash flows.
It cash flows. I mean, I've been looking for opportunities in Vancouver, which is kind of where I know. I believe in investing in what I know and where I feel comfortable. I think it's the safest route to go. That's not for everybody, obviously, but yeah, I mean, the numbers seem to work. We kind of kept crunching them over and over and over again and reverse engineering from what we felt we could get rent-wise, what we need to put in renovation-wise, and obviously purchase price and all the carrying costs associated with that. And yeah, it works. In fact, it's we're not quite there, but I have a plan to make it cash flow even better.
So
we'll save that for after the.
It sounds very slumlordy, but it's actually not. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, but we should talk about that.
Students.
First, let's cut to commercial so you can.
No. Just change the camera angle, secret. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Todd, eat your sandwich.
So what's new with you, Adam?
So, what do you want? Maybe we should unpack
I feel like there's
a bit.
about 3 or 4 things to unpack in what you just said. One is, so it's a single-family house in the city of Vancouver.
Yes, it's zoned RM4, so lots of potential in the future.
Right, and just for our listeners, RM4 multifamily zoning, so latent value in the land.
Exactly. So, I mean, for me, I want all kinds of options. The more options that I have for the future, the better. Also, my mindset right now is hold for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
So there's no intention to sell or redevelop or really do anything for the next 5-ish years. Might be 7, might be 4. You know, life changes for us as the owners. And so we might get inspired to do something earlier. But I think from a financial perspective, you need to consider it as a 5 to 7 year hold.
And what kind of, so you mentioned renos, but just thinking about this, so what type of shape was this house in?
Well, I mean, I don't advocate this, or I don't suggest everyone go down this route, but if you have experience with older homes and you understand the dynamics of them and you understand kind of worst case scenario, you can be a lot more aggressive on the negotiation side. And so I think we won on the negotiation. Hopefully it was a win-win for everybody.
Right, but and just when did you actually purchase the property? Was it this spring or?
Yeah, we got possession late June, I want to say, or late July.
And you were negotiating it in like March, April, or?
Yeah, I think it all kind of blends together.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was late spring, couple months for them to get organized, and there were tenants in both of the suites at the time. Right. Both were kind of friends of the owners, so they were moving out. It was all, you know, we didn't kick anybody out. It was all part of the plan beforehand.
Right.
That was part of the thing that we needed. Obviously, you don't want to come in and displace people and kick people out.
Right.
But this was a situation that happened to work out that way. And that was a deal breaker for us. You know, we would have walked away from the deal.
Yeah.
I feel like that was almost kind of the bottom of this year too, so far. Like, I feel like we're picking up the last couple months, and the spring of this year really fell flat.
You would have been probably negotiating that deal. If the trend continues, you might have found the bottom there.
I don't know how I end up doing this, and I think that if you do it for long enough, like I've been doing this for over 15 years.
Yeah.
You intrinsically get a sense of where things are at. You talk to people, like just talking to people all the time,
right?
And just kind of like gleaning where they're at, what are they feeling, and because the market is driven by so many different factors, but a lot of it is emotion.
Totally.
And as confidence grows, you can start to see it. The people who aren't investing or buying on a regular basis start to get more and more interested. And, you know, when the market is in full swing, everyone's doing it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like buying stocks, which I am pathetic at. I can't get that right at all. You know, when everyone's buying it or everyone's talking about it, chances are you may have missed
You missed
the
it.
peak. But the location, I think, is critical as well. We strategically looked for something that in an area that we felt was going to have the biggest swing. So potentially, and we don't know the answers to this. I mean, part of it is a guessing game.
Yeah.
We're actually not too far from where we are right now.
So are you in Mount Pleasant?
So we're
Can you
live. We
disclose?
should say we're live at the Bento Box,
Right.
and you guys are you're west of Maine. Can you say that
We're west of Maine. Yeah.
by about 1 block? Can you say that?
Which 100 block are you in?
These guys are good.
Yeah.
Lie detector. They're gonna crack me.
Yeah. The best thing about being live at the Bento Box, though, is the fact that we're kind of in the epicenter of, we feel like, where people are investing, where people are living, operating. We've met you in this area for lunch, and we know you operate around here. Like,
Yeah,
you spend a
love
lot
it.
of time.
Yep.
So, yeah, we agree. So, west of Maine. That's exciting.
West of Maine, it's a great area. I think it's depressed more than anywhere, but not more than anywhere else. But it came down.
It did come
kind of
down.
like
Yeah.
everywhere else.
Yeah.
But I think the bounce back in this area is going to be stronger than some of the traditional areas that people have focused on in the past. So the west side of Vancouver, the deep west side, my opinion is that it's not going to bounce back in the same way that we will see pockets like the Main Street Corridor, Fraser,
Sure.
some of those areas in Vancouver.
So you're taking west of Maine over Kerrisdale.
Every day.
Awesome.
Interesting stuff.
West of Maine over Kitts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Kitts is a great neighborhood. I used to live there. It's where I bought my first place. I love it down there. I just think that it doesn't have a lot of capacity to grow right now, other than the SkyTrain, going out to UBC.
Broadway line.
The
Yeah.
Broadway line. But other than that, I mean, Kitsilano is an awesome spot. It's great geographically. It's problematic from a traffic perspective, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to get in and out of. I find that as you get a little bit closer to Main Street and Cambie, there's a few more options in terms of how people can get around.
Yeah.
Right.
And Kitts is just more established. So it's already done its thing. It'll do another thing down the road, but
Sure.
I think that's a longer horizon.
So yeah, and it's funny, like a lot of the people that would have 5, 10, 15 years ago been looking deeper, deep west side, say.
Yep.
Like I feel like everybody I'm talking to is looking between Cambie, that would have been looking in those areas, is looking between Cambie and Maine.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the pocket.
It's the golden pocket.
yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. I always think back
I don't
to
even know what that means. The golden pocket.
Well, Rise,
Trademark that.
Rise Alliance, remember they that was like part of their branding when they launched the Independent, was that I think it was like the center of the city has shifted east. And
Yeah.
it's funny though, like I mean by the time they were saying that, it had already shifted
Yeah.
east.
So
but
Yeah.
it makes sense, right? Like everybody is aware of that now, that it's no longer the west side, right? The stigma's gone.
100%. I've been talking about this for years, and I started off talking about real estate to my community, which was the community of actors and theater people and television people in Vancouver, and that's where it kind of grew from. And I've always believed, and I think it holds true now, is go to any city and look where the artists are living. Now, it's not great that they get displaced, but the artistic community creates a cool factor that other people want to be around. And then people with money want to be in that area. We've seen it time and time again in Vancouver and any other major city. And so they move in, and all of a sudden you start to see that gentrification, that money coming in, people renovating houses, cool coffee shops coming in, bars, restaurants, different shops, all the kind of commercial side, which tends to be on the leading edge of indicating where kind of that next trend is going to be. And the main corridor, I think we've already seen it. Like, that it's not a spoiler to anybody.
No, it's in fact, it's almost starting to feel a bit like Yaletown in my mind compared to
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's funny because even on the macro level, like I was talking to someone the other day that was saying that New York is nowhere near as cool as it used to be. But like a city like Mexico City is really cool because artists can afford to live there.
Exactly.
And it's funny, like just pulling back and thinking about certain cities in the world that are doing really well, and because of affordability and artists and new restaurants and affordable commercial space.
Yep.
And then you take it down to the micro level, and it makes sense in terms of sub communities or sub areas, right? I mean,
you go into a lot of communities in this city even, and it's kind of dead and boring, and it's lost a sense of kind of soul and vibrancy to it. So it's critically important to make sure that in all of our neighborhoods that we have that diversity, not just diversity in terms of different people. It's socioeconomical ranges, it's ages, it's families, and this leads back to the the last conversation that we had, and my mantra these days is about what are we building, how are we keeping families in the urban center. It's not for everybody, I get it, but a lot of people want to stay in our urban environment, and they don't feel like it's a viable option. So we got to fix that problem. We got to continue to attack it.
This is going back to right sizing, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And can you just talk, just for people that didn't hear the last show,
Sure.
Can you kind of give us just a working definition of
and
right
then
sizing?
and then I want to get back to this the investment, because I feel like we got to
the negotiation.
Yeah, we'll
the
weave
nuts and
off
bolts.
and then we'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the beautiful thing about real estate, right? Like it's the nuts and bolts of things which you've got to have a handle on if you're going to play the game.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand what's going on kind of big picture wise, because those are the things that ultimately determine where the market's going, where the viability of different investments are going to be. So
Right.
The theory behind right sizing is to readdress the space that we're living in. And as affordability becomes a bigger and bigger issue, I mean, it's the hottest conversation across Canada, really. I mean, it's how are people affording to live in our cities? And we have, close to 90% of our population lives in the major cities in Canada. So we need to redefine that bigger is better model and start to build efficient spaces that are more cost effective for people to live in, and therefore that they can stay in the city. So instead of building that 3,000 square foot house with a bunch of rooms that nobody uses, why don't we look at 1,200 to 1,500 square feet in a different way and see if we can have families live in that? And then the trickle down effect from that is huge.
Yeah.
Starting financially, but also going from a community standpoint, transportation, from a quality standpoint. We start building things better. We start, the same amount of money into a smaller space creates a better space than the big house.
Right.
From an environmental standpoint, which is, obviously going to become a bigger and bigger conversation.
Yeah. Well,
so it's a huge topic.
Yeah.
And the housing industry is way behind the curve. We address it in the food industry. Everyone's talking about it. We address it in the car industry. Everyone's talking about it. But where are we at in the conversation with housing?
Right.
Nowhere. Or very little. Very little.
And luckily it seems to be, and we've had some people on recently that are kind of echoing your sentiments. It seems like it's kind of, there's a groundswell.
I don't listen to your show, so I would have no idea.
Join the masses.
Where am I and who are you guys?
But one thing, I mean, it is worth pointing out, and this is something that, I think we have similar age kids and you have a baby, but there's the general strike this Friday.
I know.
The environmental catastrophe that's coming is something that I lie awake thinking about at night at least.
It's terrifying. Yeah, it's terrifying.
It is terrifying, and we have to be proactive about it, and clearly we haven't been.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to say that this is the first time that I've actually taken my bike and driven or rode to something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I always have my truck, and the only reason that I didn't take it today is because it wasn't there. Rebecca has it. So I was kind of I forced myself into it.
And I've been talking about starting biking for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
It's hard to choose.
You haven't even talked about it yet.
That's next year. That's my goal for next year.
So the deal is that you need to create something where your life is better because of the choice of, because of the choice that you make, as opposed to it being a sacrifice. And that's the whole thing about redesigning our homes, and this idea around right sizing is, what can we do so that we actually have a greater experience of life? Our lifestyle is better. Our happiness is better, not worse. And I think that we just ignore the things, that we carry these massive burdens of these mortgages, and we live way out in the suburbs and we have to commute, and the impact that all of those things have on our, ourselves and our family and our relationships and our kids. It's massive.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like time is just a thing, eh?
But I think you're right though, that there's this almost like this there's these really loud rumblings in this movement where, like, we've had Nathan Lauster on talking about the death of the single family home. We just recently had Charles Montgomery on talking
who
about
wrote Happy City.
Happy City.
Right.
This idea that, like, people are recognizing that what they choose to buy and where they choose to live has a huge impact on their happiness, their lifestyle, right? The amount of time that they have, the amount of energy that they have, and then also, of course, your carbon footprint and how you're working within the environment, right?
Yeah, and we stumbled upon this really from kind of a grassroots perspective. It wasn't a sitting in a room philosophically thinking about what we can do. This was in reaction to our children, and we started to kind of like peel back this idea, and we've been on this journey for about 3 years. So anyway, I mean, we've covered this off before.
Yeah.
But the conversation needs to keep happening.
Totally. But one
and
thing
hopefully inspire people to just relook at it.
Right.
Totally.
And one thing that I'm kind of interested in is, so you've been kind of on this journey. We've talked about it on the show. Since we've had you on before, you've bought another investment property. It sounds like there was a lot of consideration strategically, like this kind of macro level, how people are changing the way they live, where the country's going, where the environment's going. Did that actually figure into why this property made sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, from a location standpoint, you can walk to everything, you can ride your bike, the SkyTrain is nearby, you've got everything, all the amenities surround you. So, it's literally on the bike route. I'm giving away the street now, but
Wait for that.
There's going to be a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
The 3 people watching this.
Come on.
From that perspective, the zoning, I think, is huge. They're in this little pocket. There's 5 houses. 1, 2.
I know
3.
exactly where it is.
There's 4 houses. 4 houses, I believe. So I think that there's an exciting opportunity to get creative with a heritage home, these 4 heritage homes, and potentially, come up with something progressive that we could develop. We wouldn't be the only ones doing it, but, that we could ultimately showcase that, we might be able to riff off of how we've been doing things in the past. So all of that plays into it. I also think that if you're a buy and hold real estate investor, which I am, long term, that you've got to think about where we're going. And it's, I'm not in it to make a quick buck. This is legacy, this is retirement fund, and my kids' inheritance. I'm self-employed, so I don't get a pension or anything like that.
In that same vein, can you talk a little bit about pulling the trigger in an uncertain market?
Well, I think you have to believe in the future of Vancouver. And, you can get distracted by all kinds of different elements that are scary, for sure.
Right.
But for me, I believe in the basic fundamental of supply and demand. Are people going to want to live here in the future? And are more and more people going to move here? And I think for a number of reasons, the answer is yes. And in that case, we have a housing shortage. We've seen it. We're experiencing it. You put something up for rent, you get inundated with people. So those elements are the ones to watch. The rest of it, interest rates, those things are all out of your control. You have to be aware of them. But if you believe in the future of great neighborhoods and investing in great product that has multiple options to it, then I believe you can't go wrong.
So maybe just and I feel like there's still like 10 things to talk about this, but the partnership. So you meet these guys on your show.
Yeah.
You're at your kid's school and there's like, hey, maybe we should buy this. Like, how did you structure that? Did you guys go to the lawyer? Like, was there?
We did, and I'll be honest with you. So we have a partnership agreement, which we have not signed. It's in our inboxes, and we just haven't dealt with it.
Yeah.
It was something that we talked about. I think the most important thing, and full disclosure, I'm not a big partnership guy, so I haven't done a ton of these before. Really, this is the first one. I partnered with my dad and some family, that kind of thing. But outside of that, I think like-minded philosophy and work ethic are the two elements that I was looking for, and trust. Do you trust these people? We have a relationship with them kind of through our kids. We would let our kids go over and play,
Sure.
those types of elements. We also kept everything very professional. Everything is documented, financially. We tried to keep an equity in people's contribution to the process. How much sweat equity are we putting into it? And our end game is the same. So we have a similar goal. And I think that the end game needs to be, you got to be aligned 100%.
Yeah.
You can't be like, well, I think we should flip it. And no, I think we should, you need to hash that out at the beginning and make sure that the game that you're going to play with this piece of property, we all agree to the rules.
Right.
I don't know what might change in the future, but I think it's been successful. You might have to ask them. I think it's been successful thus far.
They're on next week.
Right? Yeah. Todd is the worst. But I'll tell you.
Todd's partners.
Here's the thing. Full disclosure as well. I phoned them yesterday when we had this conversation about having this conversation.
Right. Sure.
I phoned them and I said, hey, listen, are you cool if I talk about this? And they're like, absolutely. But it's it's that level of communication. Everything, a group text, every decision, is great. And I will say that on the positive side, I've steered away from it because I didn't want to carve the numbers up, and I wanted to be the sole decision maker.
Yeah.
And I felt very passionate about that. What I will say, having gone through it, oh my goodness, it is so great. I loved this partnership thus far. Number one, you don't have to make all the decisions. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do all the work. You get to carve it up. And it's awesome. And working in a bubble by yourself is tricky. It's you sometimes don't come up with the best solutions.
Right.
And the myth that people buy into is that there is a right and wrong way to do things in the world of real estate, well, in life in general. But if we're looking at houses, renovations, for example, there is no right and wrong way. I mean, there's a right and wrong way to wire and, plumbing and stuff like that. But when it comes to creative decision making, there's no right answer. So it does take a team, and sometimes someone has a better idea than you have, or you can riff off of it and you can figure out something. And we did a lot of talking. Clearly, I like to talk, but I think that that process, drills down into hopefully as good a decision as you can possibly make. And there's a lot of money on the line.
Well, this is it. And I mean, you were actually talking about it at the beginning of the conversation, but this idea of how much real estate involves just constantly talking to people.
Yeah.
And working out ideas and hearing other people's perspectives about the market, the area, how they would approach a certain investment or a certain property. And I mean, I think that's important. And we've had a ton of developers and investors, and a lot of it is a lot of the deals that they find are just through communicating or just talking to people on a regular basis. I found a house through talking to a woman at the coffee shop or whatever. She knew her neighbor was selling. Like, it's that kind of level of communication that it often takes, right?
Absolutely.
And then if you have that in your team as like a soundboard, it's invaluable.
And, success more and more I realize is a function of the people that you surround yourself with. And having a team, I used to think a team was like, oh, you got to have a great realtor and a mortgage broker. And okay, like if you're doing this and you don't know that you need that,
It's the first step.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you need to change gears. For example, I'm licensed. I did not negotiate this deal. That was another level that we put. We brought Sean Lee, who
good friend of the show.
Great,
we love Sean Lee.
Sean is an awesome guy. He's an outstanding realtor. He's a great negotiator. I felt very strongly that I did not want to negotiate this deal. Not just from a liability standpoint, but also because we're in partnership.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my agenda to overpower anyone else's.
Yeah, and you know what I'll say, just from...
And by the way, I always use a realtor.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest mistakes I think I've made is when I bought my house, I negotiated it myself. And
I offered to do it for half my commission.
Yeah. But I just... No, there's no... I'm just a control freak, and I also like the full commission. Yeah. But what happened, I found, was there's that one layer of there's a degree of separation that is so useful in a negotiation that is an obvious point. But I was literally like sitting I ended up in the kitchen of somebody's house, negotiating on the fly, where in a pretty high pressure situation. Where in hindsight,
and you're emotionally invested,
totally, and I wanted to be like, I need somebody in between me and them right now.
Yeah,
and
that's why actors have agents too.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's a rare person who can actually manage that process and be, not get emotionally tied up in the situation.
Right,
and it's emotional.
Yeah.
Like for people to say that they get involved in this and then they, I'm not going to get swayed. No, you need to be emotionally invested in this in order to pull the trigger.
Right.
That's why you need that person or multiple people to filter information for you so that you can use them as a sounding board. But so that's a given.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to invest and renovate, you got to have a team of people around you that you trust. So your plumber, your electrician, some sort of contractor, a roofing person, drainage, flooring, painter, like everything. Mm-hmm. You need to have that Rolodex of people that you can call and that they will show up and that you trust not only their work, but the price that they're going to charge you.
Right.
And so many people get involved in this and they're lost. And even if you've been doing it for years, those people come and go. You've got to try new people. Those people are away, unavailable. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
Right.
It is not. It's not an easy journey.
No.
At all.
Well, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that renovation process, but more from, so there's 4 people involved. How did you guys? Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, how you made the choices you did for the amount of money you put into it, the types of renovations you did, and thinking about the end result, both of tenants wanting to be there, tenants being happy there, tenants wanting to stay there, but also it's going to make money in the end, because obviously at the end of the day, it's an investment. Can you talk about that process a little bit?
So we started off with an even split agreement, so 50-50. We're going to contribute time, energy, and money as evenly as possible. Obviously, the money part is an easier formula to get right, because that's a tangible thing, whereas time and effort are different, and everyone brings different skill sets, and we both have young kids, so we got to manage that time. So while someone might be taking the kids to a summer program and someone else is renovating, both of those are contributing to the process. I think communication we've touched on was a huge deal. So any decision, we would always text each other if someone wasn't there. So I'm gonna pick up X product. I think we should go with, and a lot of times we would defer. The thing that we were really focused on was moving fast. So getting from the point of possession to rented was critically important. Mm-hmm. Any month that we were not rented was a huge deal. There's no point in fussing over, an extra $300 for, a different tile and shopping around that's going to take 3 days when you burn, $4,000, $5,000 of potential rent in a month. It takes a long time to make that up. And I think that a lot of landlords or junior investors forget the fact that, if you need to take $100 or $200 off your rent to get a great renter and rent it out quickly, it's way more important to do that than sit back and have it sit empty for a month. I do not understand how people can rationalize a day when it's not rented. It's unforgivable in my book. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. So the decision-making process, I think like-minded people, we deferred to who, and we trusted each other. So, if someone went out and bought mirrors and light fixtures, great. Buy 10 of them, we'll return what we need to, and we'll all stand there and be like, oh yeah, that one's great. Perfect. And we came up with ideas that resources that I wouldn't have come up with. So our partners have a land assembly house that is being taken out. So we went in there and we took out 2 IKEA kitchens. So we just disassembled them. We put them in the truck. We brought them over. We made them fit into the new kitchens, and we brought the appliances. So that was a huge win. Others brought resources of different people that we could leverage relationships and stuff like that.
Right. And we should say IKEA kitchens are the only IKEA product that can be disassembled and put back together.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't disassemble the boxes. We actually kept the boxes together.
We should say that.
Why?
We should say. Because I'm not sure why.
I'm like, because Matt has disassembled IKEA in the past.
I did.
With a bottle of scotch.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
story,
yeah.
We'll tell it. We'll save it for another time.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I forgot about that
good.
whole disassembly.
Yeah.
Didn't go back.
Yeah. You still owe me $400.
Yeah, knocked the wheels off.
Yeah.
Can't put the wheels back on that one. Yeah, that was a bit of a disaster.
It's a fine balance of being conscious of money all the time. It's a business. So you need to be making sure that you are saving as much as possible while not tipping over into that part where it ends up being cheap.
Yeah.
Clean and safe are the 2 things that have to be there.
Yeah.
And then you're looking for practicality, longevity, and cost effectiveness.
Right.
Top trends, no one cares. Renters don't care about that.
Yeah. Right.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
They want a space that feels like home. They want a space that is clean and
safe.
Bright and safe.
Yeah, right.
Those are the
comfortable
elements,
in, right?
and that function well. So it's amazing. So all at the same time, we had a tenant leave. We have a studio downtown, so we went through the rental process. Not only anecdotally, we had a 2-bedroom. These at the house, there's 2 units: a 3-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit. That's how we designed it. Just because of the layout, we didn't want to move any walls.
Was it 3 and 2 when you bought?
There was one person living, I think, in each unit. So, and you couldn't even see the floor. Like, there was so much stuff in that house. It was unbelievable. So it was obviously not at its highest and best use.
Yeah.
We did keep the layout, but we just reworked it, cleaned it up, made it safe. And that's kind of how it worked out. I actually felt that the main floor, 2-bedroom, plus den, laundry room, all that kind of good stuff was the gem. I thought that was going to garner the highest rent because the 3-bedroom unit upstairs doesn't have a living room. Just the way it used to be a boarding house.
Yeah.
So it was carved up into these 3 bedrooms, kitchen, couple of bathrooms.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, I don't know. Are people going to? We were inundated with people for the 3-bedroom.
Really?
And we struggled to rent the 2-bedroom.
Was the 3-bedroom the type of people that were looking for it? Was it like families or was it 3 roommates?
3 roommates.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable.
Just makes, I bet the financial viability of that, right, is the attractiveness.
100%.
Yeah.
So where else can you live in a cool house in a great neighborhood for $1,000 a month?
Yeah.
That's essentially what they're doing.
Yeah.
A couple things that we like to do is include utilities and internet. Just make it easy for people.
Yeah.
Not only on the negotiation side, We haven't really even talked about the negotiation, but keeping it easy for the seller if you're the buyer, making it as easy for them as possible, understanding their motivations, and then making it easy and comfortable for the tenants as well is great. People don't like to leave easy.
Yeah.
And those little perks, the little things make the difference to people. It's not the big things.
Can you talk just quickly about your process of speaking to tenants and qualifying tenants?
Yeah. I think it's an absolute joke what people make tenants, hoops they make them jump through. I don't understand it. I have to meet everybody in person. That's a deal breaker. And I interview everybody. Like that's just, you cannot get a feel for who someone is without talking to them and getting to know them a little bit. Mm-hmm. You are in partnership with them. So to have that separation and not be in relationship with them is a big mistake, in my opinion. Obviously, there are agencies out there who do this for people, and I get it, but it's not for me. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I have never done, I've never called a bank. Like, I don't know why people ask for banking information. Maybe someone can tell me, but phoning a bank to check if they have a checking account there is asinine. It's a waste of time. We ask for 3 references, and that's it.
So you don't do
3 references.
You don't do criminal checks.
No.
You don't do credit rating.
No. Why? What are you gonna find? One of my best friends.
That was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, Matt.
No, but seriously, I mean, one of my best friends has a criminal record.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest people I know. I just don't know what you're going to find in that process that is going to change your opinion. Yeah. If you are so nervous about that person that you need to do all of that, chances are it's the wrong person. And if you don't have choice, then you've probably priced it too high. You want choice. You want,
totally.
You want first of all, have everyone come at the same time. You want to create a little sense of urgency about this. Have everyone come at the same time if possible. Get to know these people. Learn a little bit about them. Phone some references.
Right.
That's it.
A good property manager that we know says if you don't get 4 calls on the first day once you post, you're too high.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think just thinking of your
4,
success,
I think that's low. I think right now, I mean, the rental market has cooled off a little bit, but
Well, I think more so the point that if you're fishing for a high price and then you get a tenant that creates problems for you, you got to take responsibility in that. I think
100%.
But that price point, like you're saying, around the $1,000. I have a guy on my street just rented. He has a studio in his garden level studio, and I think he put it on at $1,100. That price point, he said he had 60 people through like within 48 hours, and 15 applications. I think that's the hottest. Anybody around $1,000 right now, I think I think there's a problem in undervaluing something as well, because you put 60 people in a situation where, the competing, there was competition. There was competition actually on that one.
With competition, and
he wasn't. This was actually this guy, in his defense,
didn't know.
He couldn't even believe the response.
And I'll defend this guy too.
Yeah.
So I have a studio apartment downtown. It's 418 square feet.
Yeah.
And no parking. So at the beginning, like years ago, I always thought, oh, this is going to be problematic. Now, first of all, that's a non-issue. And
that's your sandwich asking to be eaten.
yeah, right.
We got to go to commercial.
Bing bong. So I went online. So the way that I try and determine a price, if I've had a tenant in there for years, is go on Craigslist. So I go on Craigslist and I just type in the criteria of that, like what someone would be looking for, and see what comes up. And so I did that, and I was like, wow. I think I actually listed as the second least expensive studio apartment in all of Yaletown. And I thought it was high. My instinct was it was high.
Yeah.
And I got inundated with people.
Do you use Pad Mapper? I find Pad Mapper is really good. That's a great kind of takes all the different sites like Kijiji, Craigslist. It mashes it all together. It gives you averages for an area, and it's got a mapping system. It's I think a little bit more analytical than some of the.
But I don't think the only thing about Pad Mapper is that still Craigslist is like you'll see 100% of what's out there. Pad Mapper, I think it's like I feel like you have to actually post on Pad Mapper.
I'm so old school too.
No,
really?
No, you'll see Craigslist. Yeah. Huh. Correct me if I'm wrong. YouTube. You may be
wrong.
Yeah.
But I think
if you make a mistake anywhere publicly, you will hear about it. Yeah. Which is why I don't hear things. I mean, but I'm old school. Like I'm old school when it comes to interviewing people to be tenants. I'm old school when it comes to the renovation process.
Yeah.
The other, just getting back to kind of that partnership and renovation side of things, is always be there, and it's hard. I get it, but. I don't have any sub-trade work on any property that I have without me being there. 99.9% of the time.
Really?
Wow. Wait, hang on a second here. So you'll spend I'm trying to understand because you're a busy guy.
Yep.
How do you be like, cause I'm just thinking of like, you've done extensive renovations, like open up the walls, all the electrical, plumbing, basically rebuilds.
Yep.
And you're there consistently, or are you just
100%
checking in daily, or are you on site?
I'm on site.
And are you on the tools with them, or are you just hanging around?
I used to be on the tools all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm never hanging around. Okay. See, the beautiful thing about real estate for me, the way that I do it, is that if I have a day that someone else isn't paying me, I'll hire myself.
Yeah.
And I would rather have that flexibility where I can pay myself to do something and control the process and be there at the same time. I mean, it's a win-win. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who don't want to get their hands dirty.
Right.
But if you're going to invest in and renovate, so to try to make a property more valuable or to take something that is less functional and make it more functional, highest and best use, if that's your game, then you need to get your hands dirty.
So give us an example of something you're doing on site. Well, like you're maybe painting or you're cleaning.
I'll give you
moving.
A really specific example. So we tied into the existing drain for the washer and dryer, and it didn't get tested, and there's a bit of a backstory there. So we hired a plumber that we didn't know because my plumber was out of the country, and not to throw him under the bus, but they didn't test that drain.
Are you going to name names?
No. They didn't test the drain, but before the tenants moved in, we hooked up the washing machine, and while we were working on another project, we turned it on. We ran the cycle.
Yeah.
And saw some water, so we turned it off. Tried a couple of things. Next thing we knew, the water was spraying out of the drain pipe all in the spin cycle, and there's a lot of pressure that comes out of that washing machine. There's water everywhere.
Wow.
Now we're 2 days before the tenants move in, and we have a flood. So we're madly cleaning up. Now we've got to troubleshoot this before they move in. We didn't quite make it. We got their washing machine working the day after they moved in. So it was a little sacrifice. Again, be in communication with the people, no surprises, tell them everything.
Yeah.
So my plumber came to fix the problem. Now we're troubleshooting together. He's obviously more experienced than I am, but I've been doing this for a long time and I understand how things work. Okay, there's, again, multiple ways to solve the problem. So while he is going to get some material that might address the problem, we're going to get a couple of different things. I open up the access panel, which I've bought, so now we can see in for later on, and going down into the basement and opening up the floor so that we can tie in and cut the cast so that we can take out the clogged part. We've already tried to snake it the day before, so that's not possible. So while he's billing out at whatever he is, plumber, $80 an hour, $90 an hour, whatever it is, somewhere between 60 and 150 probably. I'm actually keeping the process moving quickly. It's all about moving fast. Mm-hmm. I'm obsessed with that. So if I can get in there and open up the floor with my Sawzall, while he's getting parts, why am I going to sit around? It doesn't make any sense to me. The other thing is that I'm controlling the decision-making process as we're going along. So we can do it A or B. I choose A. Great. We're going to do that based on the information that I have.
Yeah.
That way I'm fully responsible for anything that goes wrong, but also I can keep that process moving fast. And any contractor will have multiple options as they're moving through a job. And I guarantee you, if you walk in, you will be upset with the choices that they've made. Not because they're wrong, they're just not the choices that you would have made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's usually
And how do you describe, like a painter? How do you describe what needs to be touched up for that final pass-through? You can't. You're going to stick green tape everywhere. They didn't see a piece of green tape. Like, it doesn't matter how diligent you are about making notes, talking it through, walking it through. You know, you walk through with a drywaller, you know, the guy that you walk through the project with, remember, he's not the drywaller. He's going to send a crew. He might show up and say, hey, this needs to be done here. Now it's 2 degrees of separation. Then he's left alone. Gonna be a problem.
So what about when you trust people and you've been working with them for years?
My plumber, I've been working with him for years, and I'm right beside him. And I'm not holding his hand. I'm not trying to like micromanage.
Right.
Yeah.
I defer to his expertise. But while he's doing that, I can do something else that needs to be done. And if a decision needs to be made, then I can make it right then.
So there's the value of just being in the trenches with him and communicating constantly.
I don't know why people invest in houses if they don't love houses and they don't understand how they work.
Right.
You need to understand that how a home runs.
Right.
Right.
Where's the water shut off? Do you know that?
So I guess the flip side of that would be somebody, if they're trying to scale, like if they're building multiple homes, then
that's my problem.
They can't be there, and that's. But I hear what you're saying, and I mean
there are other formulas to do this.
Yeah.
The way that I do it has been successful for me.
Right.
And I don't scale. Partially because I like to control, but I also love the process.
Yeah.
I never started to get into real estate because I wanted it to be a business. I still don't. I love renovations. I love houses. I love the discussion.
You know what we've never heard on this show in the 3 or 4 years? Somebody say, I love houses, which is kind of actually just
that's funny.
An incredible thing to say. Like, who gets into this business if you don't love houses?
No, but I think that
it's totally true. No, it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. Like, people don't understand that the renovation process or the investing process is a lot of time and effort and sweat and blood, and I sliced my finger. There's, it's a tough job. It's not, I said it before, you're probably going to edit out the first one, but it's not for the faint of heart.
Right.
It's a high stakes game.
Well, we're going to keep both of those. But what?
Wait. I got one more question about this renovation.
Well, the only thing I was going to say just quickly before you get to your question is, I think that's the thing. It's like you talk to people that are really into cars, like women and men that are really into cars.
Yeah.
I think if you're really a real estate fanatic, you're almost that way about houses, right? Or condos. It's like you're like... Yeah. You want it, like, I know the houses in the city that I'm like, man, I love that house.
Totally.
And it's because and when we're walking the neighborhoods, we're looking at the houses the way that I'm sure a car guy looks at like a Porsche or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And drools about it or whatever. We're doing that with houses.
And they don't drool about it because of the paint color.
Sure.
They're interested in the dynamics that make that car.
Yeah.
That car.
Right.
Well, you listen to, I don't know if you've ever watched, not to go on to a car thing, but the Jerry Seinfeld show, when he describes those cars at the start, it's like...
comedians in cars getting coffee.
It seems so like...
it's a great show. It doesn't resonate with me.
It doesn't resonate at all with me. He'll describe this Rolls Royce for about 5 minutes, and you're like, who cares? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but he loves it.
Get to the crux.
He loves it. And I would suggest that people do not get into the game of renovating or real estate investing, and especially on the renovation side, if they don't love it.
Yeah.
You gotta love it.
Yeah.
You gotta love this game, or it will beat you down.
It Seriously. Will beat you down because it's like you're learning how to skate and you're moving into AAA hockey or something, right? Because the people out there working.
Siri is listening to you. Just, hey Siri.
I did say "Hey Siri" at the beginning of that. I did.
Oh, did you really?
No, I didn't. Thanks for listening, though, TT.
Well, Siri,
you're exactly
Siri
right.
Was listening too.
Yeah. Siri's always listening. At
Yeah.
the end of this, we're gonna have just houses showing up on our Instagrams. And
But one thing that you said right at the beginning that I just want to go back to, and maybe this is the final thing on the renovation front.
Sure.
But I'm glad to hear you've got both places rented. It sounds like
The goal was September 1st for both places.
Yeah.
And we got September 1st and September 15th.
Yeah. So
Right.
But mostly because of our timeline.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of the market.
right on. So
let's switch gears.
hold on. One more.
Yeah, there's
one
that
more.
one question, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
ask.
Do we need?
Have
let's
a
go, let's
bite
go
of
to
your-
No,
commercial.
I'm actually looking because I was lying in bed this morning before I came down here, and I wanted to think back through the process. Like, what were those moments where I was like, oh yeah, what a great reminder, or something that I learned, and so I jotted down some.
Well, and so I'd be curious to hear the notes. I'm also. You said you have bigger ideas for cash flow. Like
Yeah.
you're making more changes to this house. I just want to hear that. Like, what's
Are we disclosing what that is on here? Or?
Wait, why is it a secret?
I think I don't think it's.
Sorry,
He's
I don't
gonna
know
he's
where I
gonna
was
add
going with
laundry
that.
downstairs at him. Come on, it's not a top secret.
Yeah. No. So
He's like laundry in the basement.
I was like, "There's a speakeasy going
yeah. I wish.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
It's a dishwasher.
keep it all legal. It's a dishwasher.
Ta-da.
What do you think's more important to tenants, dishwasher or washer and dryer, if you had to choose? Because oftentimes you have to make that choice.
I personally would say dishwasher.
I would say it's culturally sensitive.
Whoa.
And location, I think,
Yeah.
is a big factor.
Yeah.
I'm going washer dryer.
Really?
Is more important.
Yeah.
Over dishwasher?
Yeah.
Actually,
Because you
maybe
can't
you're right.
you can't actually wash your own clothes. Like, well, you can in the
Yeah.
sink, but you're not.
You
gonna
have to
do
go
that.
somewhere.
You have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know
And
what?
And a dishwasher.
Also, a funny. This was a joke made by a guy we mention all the time, Swansea.
XT.
XT, the whale of West Dyke Trail. He made a comment. He bought this really great house, and it was like integrated appliances. I can't remember exactly. I think it was integrated appliances, and he was like, "Oh yeah," and he's Vietnamese. He's like, "Dishwasher, yeah, this is where all of us Asians put our dishes, like instead of the cupboards."
Right.
They don't actually. He's like, "We don't use dishwasher at all." And I've noticed ever since he said that, I'm like, it's kind of true.
You know what?
I don't know.
First of all, it's a great point because when you're renovating and designing a space, you need to have in mind who is going
The
to
end user.
be there.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally.
Like, it's like marketing a piece of property. You're marketing to the people who you think are going to actually move in there.
Right.
You know, and who are those people? If you're selling your house, it's you when you bought it.
Yeah.
And if you're, renovating to rent it out, then, you need to kind of think about, is it going to be students? Is it going to be a family? Is it going to be one person, couple? Are you going to allow pets?
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah, you're right. And
If you want to have more people apply for your place, allow pets.
Yeah.
allow pets. 100%.
Why do people get so nervous about it?
Well,
Damage? Is
Yeah.
that the issue? Because you can take a half month's damage deposit, and let's say the rent is $3,000. That's $1,500.
Yeah,
What's
you
the pet
can-
going to do?
you can sort out those issues pretty
You
quick.
can recarpet. You
Yeah.
can refloor.
Yeah.
The one thing we've had a lot of people that invest in multifamily and rehab multifamily buildings, and the easiest thing to do to increase the rents is to add laundry, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's the no brainer.
Yep.
But is that really what? Did we get to this
No,
cash
you
flow
didn't get,
secret?
no,
We,
no.
No, we're gonna
okay, sorry, we're weaving there.
save it for the
So-
last minute of
No,
this
so
program.
the cash flow secret for me is, one of them is storage. So
Yeah.
we're obsessed with storage as a culture, which is counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But we need places for the stuff that we don't use.
Mm-hmm.
So super logical and smart, I know. But so provide that space,
we got a bike there.
right? So in the basement, we don't want to put accommodation down there and go through all of that hassle and, put in a sump and all, from a plumbing perspective, it's a nightmare, and, ceiling height and all that kind of stuff. So what are you going to do with that space? So you want to clean it up, make it dry, safe, warm, rent it out as storage. I bet you we will get equivalent storage as we would store to or pretty darn close
to putting a suite in there.
And the cost is going to be a fraction.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're putting, so if I understand, you have a 2-bedroom on the main level.
Yep.
You got a 3-bed upstairs.
Yep.
And you're going to have storage facility in the basement.
Yep.
That's great. And you know what the other thing is with the detached market too, is renting out the garage, which a lot of people
Absolutely.
don't do and don't factor into their number crunching.
I have another house, and it has a 2-car garage, and the previous owner had a wall in between, just a 2x4 frame wall in between,
Yep.
and there was 2 different garage doors, and I rent out both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we had there was a house that we had that was an investor that owned it, and he was renting it down the street to a guy who had a couple cars,
Yeah.
like old cars.
Yeah.
He was getting astronomical rent for it, like
See,
it was crazy.
And the other thing is, it's not like you're going to go out and post this on Craigslist and
Sure.
be like, oh, I got a bunch of random people coming and going. Like, I'm not running a storage facility.
Yeah.
It is ideally the tenants first. Secondly, the neighbors, maybe me,
Right.
It could be, it's going to be a tight circle of people. We're not just,
Yeah.
having people come and go. We're not in that business.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to maximize the potential of rent that they don't do.
That was way more interesting than the dishwasher I was expecting. So great. Great.
Paint color. Oh, paint. I hate paint. I got one more tip though.
Okay, one more tip.
So before you move on to, off this property, so here's an idea for people on the negotiation side. I mean, you guys are pro negotiators, so I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. But you walk into this house and there's so much stuff, and obviously it's overwhelming for people to deal with it all. Tell them not to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So just make people's job easier. It's amazing. The cost of removing all that stuff is a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
We probably saved, 6 digits on the purchase price for that reason.
Yeah. By saying you'll dispose of it.
Yep. Don't worry about it. Take what you need, leave the rest. We got it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how effective you can be at just getting rid of stuff if you know the right people for junk removal. Oh. And it's crazy too, because I mean you think about it, like just even so, not only on the perspective of they don't want to pay for it being removed, but it's the hassle that people build. It takes going through this once where you have a bad experience where it's like a few days of your life, and maybe you make a lot of money in your career or whatever, where you left money on the table, for people to be like, I don't want to deal with that anymore, right? And I get it. So you have the people. Why not leverage that?
Yeah. Or Google them and you can
find
sure. Someone to come and take
and
it.
there's certain companies out there that charge you an arm and a leg, but those aren't the companies you want to use.
We got
for
a guy.
junk removal. Yeah, get in touch. We do have a guy. We have a fantastic.
All right, so
I actually, we just talked way too long.
Yeah.
My intention was to have short answers today. I was riding my bike down here. I was like, be short answers, Todd.
Short answers. We
Yes or
also
no?
we spent all night working on these questions that we're not even going to get to, so we'll have to have you back. But one thing we did want to touch on before you leave, you of course have a Covenant House fundraiser you do. I know it's coming up. I've already bought my new pajamas for the party.
When have you bought your tickets?
We're doing that today.
That's the most important thing.
Oh,
We're doing that today.
Pajamas first.
Pajamas.
I just wanted to make sure I had the right pajamas. But yeah, the tickets are coming.
Good.
But yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? And we got some stuff in the work. It sounds like we're trying to put something together. So about kind of those issues. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved trying to support Covenant House for 5 years now. This will be the 5th annual fundraiser, and it all leads up to the Executive Sleepout, which is a campaign that happens at all Covenant Houses around North America on the same night. And we sleep out for one night just to bring attention and awareness and raise money for an organization that helps kids get off the street, essentially. And we could talk all day about how those kids end up in that position, but being able to contribute in a small way to help, homeless youth in Vancouver and across the country is it's awesome. When you hear their stories, it breaks your heart, and but when you hear the success stories, when people go through the program and come out on the other side and they change their life around, it's the least we can do. So I decided to raise the money. My portion of it is to throw a party. And you guys have been.
It's a great party.
Yeah, we change it up every year.
Yeah.
It's a heck of a lot of work putting on this party.
I bet.
And the biggest part for me is selling the tickets. And so if anyone's listening who wants to come, you can go to my Instagram page. I don't know if you guys throw something up.
We'll put it out there too. Yeah, absolutely. And I should say, last party, we saw a wet T-shirt contest starring Charles Belash.
Oh yeah,
remember that?
Oh right,
remember?
I totally forgot.
Yeah, turns out he's in pretty good shape.
Actually, yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah,
or maybe not. I don't know,
maybe
but he is in good shape.
I think he's known as being in pretty good shape.
We had a great night.
Should we analyze this?
Yeah, I'm changing.
Get a photo.
I'm getting you back on topic here. It's going to be on October 17th in the evening.
It's a pajama party this year.
Right.
It's a high-end pajama party. It's being hosted at CF Interiors, which is a furniture store with lots of beds. We're having a Twister tournament. We've got live music.
Where are you going with this?
Exactly. See, now I've got your interest. We've got incredible sponsors. So we get everything sponsored so that 100% of your ticket price goes to Covenant House and you get a tax receipt for the full amount.
And it's seriously the best.
Yeah, the food is great. The drinks are great. The company's great. There's literally no reason why you don't want to be going to this party.
Exactly.
The most fun you can have with your pajamas on.
Exactly.
That's a tag.
And hopefully, why don't we leave it at that? Yeah. Exactly.
Marketing.
Yeah.
And can we finish with the 5-wire here? Quick?
Yeah, I think you've done it before, but let's do it again.
Okay.
Favorite neighborhood in Vancouver?
Main Street.
Favorite bar or restaurant?
Man, I suck at this. Every time I stall on this one.
Oh, wait for the next one.
Crap. Bar or restaurant? Bar. Really, anything.
I think you said that sushi restaurant on Commercial. I'm blanking on the name last time.
Yeah, Britannia Sushi.
Yeah, Britannia Sushi.
Anywhere that serves Fat Tug.
Yeah. Had a few fat tugs last night, which is why I'm not as articulate as I'd like to be. That stuff kicks your ass.
One book that you would recommend to anyone listening?
I actually rarely read, but I have Audible. So if I'm driving, I'll listen. Ask me the next question.
What's one piece of advice you'd give your 18-year-old self?
They just keep getting easier.
Buy more property.
Good.
Yeah, earlier. It's time is the big function. Where's Audible?
Last question for you, Todd, and then we'll circle back to your favorite book. What is something that you've bought in the last year for under $500? I think last time it was your coffee mug, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah,
In the last year for under $500, it's changed your life. And you're not using your coffee mug, by the way.
I know. I've fallen off the wagon, but I rode my bike, so it's carbon offsetting. You know what? To be honest with you, my jacket. I love this jacket. It's
a good look.
It's an indulgence. Patagonia, the puffy jacket. I actually bought my first one for the sleep out because I was like, I need a down jacket to sleep on the street, and I love this thing.
Nice.
I would wear it all year long.
Good product. Good product, Patagonia.
And you go there, and when you buy a jacket from them, they don't put it in a bag. They fold it into the hood, and they give it to you. And it's like fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're, socially progressive. I think they're an awesome company. I have nothing to do with them. I would love to, but, Yeah,
Us as well.
There you go. Yeah. Patagonia.
Everyone at this
If
table.
Patagonia is listening.
Patagucci.
And should we end on the book and how people can reach you, or do you want to skip that book one?
I'm no good at the book thing.
Yeah.
I'm really no good at the book thing.
Well, just how
I don't
people
know.
can find out more about you then.
Because you are good at the Instagram thing. There's no
I do
question
like
about
the
that.
Instagram thing.
Yeah.
It's just at Todd Talbot. I manage all my social media, and if people ask questions, I try and answer every single one of them. So, message me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and I'll do my best to answer.
Right on.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks
And
again.
I won't be as long-winded as this.
Your third time back. Thanks again for your time, Todd. You're a wealth of knowledge. This is incredible. Thanks so much.
I just like talking about this stuff. So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have you back. Hopefully.
all right.
Hopefully we can
I'll
get
clear
you.
my schedule.
All right. That was great.